Today, we're going to unravel a fascinating legal puzzle that goes all the way back to 1936. It's a story about a doctor, a business deal, and a very telling silence. And it all boils down to one huge question. Where exactly is the line between just keeping quiet and actually telling a lie?
I mean, it's a question we've all probably asked ourselves, right? But what does the law say? Well, this exact question is at the very heart of a landmark case called With v. O'Flanagan. And trust me, the answer it provided literally changed the rules of the game for contract law.
So to really get to the bottom of this, here's our game plan. We'll start with the practice for sale, then we'll hit that sudden turn of events, we'll look closely at the seller's silence, and then unpack the court's incredible ruling and why it still matters so much today.
All right, let's set the scene. Our story kicks off in the early 1930s. We have a doctor, Dr. O'Flanagan, and he's looking to sell his medical practice. Seems simple enough, right? A standard business deal. But as you're about to see, the devil is in the details.
So it's January of 1934, and Dr. O'Flanagan is in talks with some potential buyers, and he makes a pretty clear statement of fact. He tells them his practice is doing great, it's thriving.
And he wasn't just talking, he had the numbers to back it up. The practice was pulling in an annual income of £2,000. Now, you got to remember, for 1934, that's a lot of money. That's a very successful business. And here's the most important part. At that moment, in January, what he said was 100% true.
Okay, so everything is looking good. The statement is true, the business is humming along, and this is where our simple story takes a dramatic and completely unexpected turn. See, the reality on the ground is about to change, big time. But the story the buyers know, that stays exactly the same. Almost right after the negotiations begin, disaster strikes. Dr. O'Flanagan gets really sick, so sick he can't work at all. Over the next few months, he brings in a bunch of substitute doctors to try and keep the practice going. But as you can imagine, with the main doctor gone, the whole thing just goes into a total nosedive. And when I say nosedive, I mean, wow. Just look at the difference here. The practice that was worth £2,000 a year in January had collapsed so badly that by May, it was making just £5 a week. The patient list was gone. The business the buyers thought they were getting had pretty much vanished into thin air. So this brings us right to the moment of truth. The contract is ready, the buyers are about to sign, and they are completely in the dark about the catastrophe that's been unfolding for months.
On May 1st, it's a done deal. They sign on the dotted line. And during his whole final process, what does Dr. O'Flanagan say about the state of his practice? Absolutely nothing. Not a word. Now, he doesn't tell a new lie, but he definitely doesn't volunteer the new truth.
And this is the core legal puzzle, isn't it? I mean, really think about this. His original statement from January was totally honest at the time. He never technically said anything else that was untrue. So did he actually do anything legally wrong by just keeping his mouth shut?
Well, you can guess what happened next. The buyers found out the truth, and they were furious. They sued Dr. O'Flanagan, and the decision the court came to would end up setting a powerful new precedent for the law.
The Court of Appeal was crystal clear. They sided with the buyers. Lord Wright, in his judgment, said this, and it's powerful. If you make a statement that later becomes untrue, and you know it, you are under an obligation to correct it. In other words, in this situation, his silence was the misrepresentation. And this case gave us a brand new legal principle, something called continuing representation. It's a game changer. It basically says that the law is going to treat that original statement from January as if Dr. O'Flanagan was repeating it over and over every single moment, right up until the contract was finalized in May. So you can break the logic down into 3 really simple steps. First, you make a statement that's true. Second, circumstances change, making that statement false. And that triggers the 3rd step. You now have a legal duty to speak up and set the record straight. Staying silent is no longer an option.
So you might be thinking, okay, that's a cool story from almost 100 years ago. What does this have to do with me? Well, it turns out it has everything to do with how we make deals and agreements today.
That idea, the duty to correct yourself, isn't just some dusty old rule in a law book. It is a fundamental pillar of modern contract law. It's all about ensuring fairness and stopping people from hiding behind half-truth to get a deal done. It promotes good faith.
And you see this idea pop up everywhere. Let's say you're selling your car and you tell a buyer it runs perfectly. But a week before they hand you the cash, the engine starts making a horrible noise. You have a duty to tell them. Same goes for a job interview. If you say you have a certain license, but it gets suspended before your start date, you have to disclose that.
It applies to selling a house, getting a loan, you name it.
So, I'll leave you with this final thought to chew on. What statements have you made recently, maybe in a work negotiation or even a personal one, that are still considered live? It's a powerful reminder from Dr. O'Flanagan's case that sometimes the most misleading thing you can say is nothing at all.